Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and it's another wonderful evening here in Atlanta, Georgia. Damn, I'm sorry I'm running a little bit late tonight. I had a whole bunch of crap that had to get taken care of. You know how that goes. You know how that goes. Hey, to be Flair, good to see you. Good to see you. I just want to make sure I'm in the right place. Is orientation right? I love the Sugar Rock and the Tortoise. Going to have to check out Grave and Robin. Well, Grave Robin, they're fun. They've got some pretty interesting music. Not all of it is that good, but of course I am running late. Just there is so much going on. Got a new employee starting on Monday, so I've got to do some training. I gotcha. Surfer. Gotcha. No, we've got a new employee starting on Monday. That's why I'm changing my normal Monday stream. I probably won't have enough time. Jessica says, Blue Racial Panic. That's funny. That's funny. No, yeah, just a busy week next week. I don't know how much I'm going to be able to stream. It's going to be some extra long days, longer than I normally have going on. You know how that goes. Just get tied down with work and all that other kind of stuff, and you just can't get everything done. So, that being said, how is everybody doing this evening? Make sure you hit that thumbs up. I know sometimes we all forget. I do the same thing. I tend to not pay attention to getting all of that stuff up. But tonight, that's going to be interesting tonight. It is about the Satanic Panic. And it's I don't know if too many people know about this. But Satanic Panic was a big thing back in the 70s and 80s. And it caused a lot of really strange things to happen. Of course, now it's places like NPR that have sort of brought this stuff back into the light. They're trying to say it's basically the fault of QAnon now. Well, that was 2021 that they're saying. Oh, nice. That'll be great. Satanic Panic is the video nasty. Bible tracks are my jam. I'm going to scan all the ones I have and do a tour of them all at the same point. Yep. They're pretty interesting. So, one of the reasons I wanted to cover this is because we see a lot of this same kind of issues happening in current days. And basically what it is it's a moral panic that people get in. They like to call it a moral panic. And you'll see that there was Japanese panic. What it boils down to is that there becomes a panic and everyone wants to be on the moral high ground. And the outcomes of these kind of things, and Satan just happens to be one of them. Hey, good evening, Cool Frog. Good to see you. What happens in these kinds of situations is people get in a panic over not doing the right thing, not saying the right thing, not being on the right side of history. And they do weird and crazy things. Hey, Grim, good to see you. Good to see you. Grim. And we see a lot of this, and especially in this modern day and age where the speed of the internet flies faster than the speed of light, faster than you can type. Somebody is already talking about the same damn thing. But this particular one, it started in the 80s and went on through the 90s. A lot of the belief from this particular panic stemmed from the new age of religion, where you had people that would claim to be Wiccans, read tarot cards. This was part of the free love hippie movement. This became a very important part of people saying, oh, that's just witchcraft. That's satanic movements. You had the Ouija board and these things have been around forever, but they became more mainstream. Things like yoga and just you think of any sort of new age movement that you possibly can, and this is where people pretty much started blaming these little offshoot groups. There's nothing wrong with somebody reading tarot. There's nothing wrong with, finding peace and solitude in something else. But because it's not part of the mainstream, and a lot of this was caused by the religious right. A lot of the problems. Cheers, everybody. Got lonely over on your Rumble. I'm sorry, Danielle. That's fine. I'll I don't have that queued up. I got such a rush this evening. Let me pull that up and see if anybody else comes in. I don't want you to feel all alone and left out over there. Give me just a second. I'm running, like I said, I'm running so far behind. And yeah, because I suck. I guess that's the best description. And there we go. That's muted. Danny. I'll probably be in YouTube chat to watch under your name, of course. I see you there. Well, oh, I'm sorry you got lonely over there. Really, Daniel, I appreciate it. Friends are God's apologies for family. So, hey, how's it going, Snafu? The visitor. I'm here. No problem. No problem, brother. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. See, you're not all alone over there, Danielle. Cheers. What am I drinking? Oh, let's see. I've got some Redemption wheated bourbon, which is pretty tasty. The wife actually enjoys it too. Might as well keep the rum, keep it running. Snafu just jumping back and forth. So this particular satanic panic, it consisted over 12,000 unsubstantiated cases of satanic ritual abuse. So it originated in 1980 with the publication of Michelle Remembers, and it was co-written by a Canadian psychiatrist and his patient and future wife, Michelle Smith, which used the discredited practice of recovered memory therapy. So a lot of people get confused of what this recovered memory therapy. It's somewhat similar to basically new age science. So you've got your groups that believe that if you can remember what you were in a previous life, then it's going to show so much about you and where you should be. And we've seen a lot of this in recent conversations or recent talks with Valo. It's no different than that. They believe that, one was Jesus and one was somebody else, and they're meant to be together forever. Well, that's fun. Good to see you, to be fly. More than happy to keep you company, Danielle. And you got Snafu over there. Y'all are cool. But this caused a lot of issues with the occult or satanic rituals, and they would pretty much call anything a satanic ritual. I mean, think about your Salem witch trials. They had some sort of mole, and that's where they had a succubus that was controlling them, and they had sold their soul to the devil. And most of these allegations, they involve a conspiracy of a global satanic cult that includes the wealthy and elite, in which children are abducted or bred for human sacrifices, pornography, and prostitution. And of course, this rose again with QAnon. So, and I'm reading a little bit of this, so don't mind me. So what's your excuse for this? It's the same on both sides. It's the same on both sides. So if you look at the way this is particularly framed, and don't blame me. I'm just reading this silly shit. Now, the term satanic abuse was more common early on, and it became satanic ritual abuse and simply ritual abuse. Over time, the accusations became more closely associated with dissociative identity disorder, or also known as multiple personality disorder, and anti-government conspiracy theories. The interest rose in this particular book, Michelle remembers, and it was sustained and popularized through the decade of coverage of the McMartin preschool trial, which we're going to go into that because it's pretty insane. Testimonials, symptom lists, rumors, and techniques to investigate or uncover memories of SRA were disseminated through professional, popular, and religious conferences, as well as through talk shows. Well, if you're old enough, you'd remember some of those talk shows. And it got pretty crazy. Hey, Roses. Law, good to see you. Good to see you. So, the crazy part about all of this is I don't know if too many of you are old enough to remember this. But back in the 80s, part of the 70s, but I remember more in the 80s, there was every little, hodink church, that danced with snakes or whatever it might be, or just looked a little creepy. It was, they had to do satanic rituals there. So this stuff has been going on for quite some time, where they would bleed people. They would have witch hunts. And it was all just to justify going after a particular group of people. The problem with all of this The problem with going after a group of people, it causes so much problems, causes a lot of problems with people. And I'll bring up this article because I found it very interesting and slightly disturbing, to say the least. And it had to do. Oh, that's weird. Well, doggone it. That's a little weird that it didn't show. Anyhow, this is 2018. I don't want to pull that one up. Okay. Part of it was a little bit like, hey, thank you. A little bit of it was similar, like in a very close proximity to. Give me just a second. Where is that article? I'm pulling up an article here because I'm boomering it and running like so behind. There it is. And silliness. Doggone it. It just disappeared on me. I hate when that happens. Copy and URLs. That's so screwed. Wow. I thought I had it up here, but I didn't. Gotta love this crap when it just goes all to shit right at the last minute. All right. Present. So, this particular one. This particular one right here is pretty disturbing. So, Believing the Children. And this also was published in 2009. When the little girl on the witness stand said, "No, it didn't happen," Frances Keller put her head in her hands and began to sob. It was the second day of what would be a 6-day trial of Keller and her husband, Danny, on charges that they had assaulted a young girl, Christina Shavers, in the summer of 1991, when the 3-year-old was an infrequent drop-in at their home-based Oak Hill daycare. Among the multiple counts were allegations that Danny had forcibly penetrated Christina with a pen and his penis, and that Fran had performed oral sex on Christina and forced the girl to do the same. The charges were based on statements Christina had made first to her mother and then to her therapist, social worker, and there was no definitive physical evidence. Well, this is a dark one. This is a dark one because these people, although they were accused of all of this, they were found not guilty. They were exonerated because of all of the horrible stuff that they were accused of doing. None of it was true. Because it was a psychologist. Thank you very much. That gave them all this information, that put this into their heads, and it ended up not being true. They actually were awarded 3.4 million, I believe it was, or $80,000 for every year that they were in jail, which was 20 years out of a 60-year sentence for each of them. It was dark. It was one of the most expensive trials that ever took place. It was also one of the longest trials, and they tried these people twice just to get a conviction on them. So, Fran and Deli Keller, they were each convicted of sexual assault, and each was sentenced, 48 years. It was effectively a life sentence since they've come up for parole, but neither will acknowledge the remorse that is a requirement of release. After 17 years, the Kellers still maintain they're innocent. Frances was devastated by the charges, which she and Danny denied. She loved children. She had 3 of her own already grown, and she missed having little ones around the house. Yes, I agree, Flair. We're going through a new version of it. We think we're so progressive that we're at the point of awareness that gender is now on the table for disputing. Frustrating. Yes. It started with her baby, then a couple more. It was heaven, staying at home taking care of kids. Yet, following a half day at the Kellers on 1991, Christina told her mother that she didn't like Danny because he spanked her, just like Daddy used to. Mother and daughter were en route to a scheduled appointment with therapist Donna David Campbell, who had been seeing Christina for several months to work on the toddler's ongoing behavioral problems. By the time Christina's half-hour appointment was finished, however, the allegation that Danny had spanked her had grown in severity and scope. According to Travis County Sheriff's Office report, Geen and David Campbell told investigators that during the therapy session, Christina told them Danny had penetrated her with an ink pen and that he defecates and urinates on her. In the following weeks, her allegations became more disturbing and confounding. By the end of the year, Christina had said not only that Fran and Danny had done things to her, but that 2 other people had also come to the daycare to partake in this. Said she had been poked by needles, and they dug a hole in the backyard to put her in. She related tales of torturing animals, killing animals, and that Kellers had done horrible things to a baby. By the end of 91, 2 other children began to tell similar stories. They were also seeing the same therapist. Told his mom that Danny had made him do certain things. Brandon Nash, his mother, told the show American Justice, said the Kellers had held a gun to his head and forced him to assault his infant sister while they videotaped the abuse. It goes into these horrible, horrible things that they were accused of. By all accounts, before she ever spent a moment at the Kellers, she was a troubled child. In 91, her parents had a bitter divorce, marked in part, recalls Rick, by accusations that they had been abusive towards his wife and toddler daughter. Suzanne came out passive-aggressive, and he was a dumb shit. Snap, Texas surprise. Oh, it gets so worse. According to the therapist's testimonies at the trial, Christina's behaviors were among the worst she'd ever seen. She'd been acting out for months. She'd seen Christina roughly 150 times and that Christina's behavior would wax and wane. But as the summer of 91 wore on, Christina's behaviors got much worse. There's been made out of misappropriation politics and matters just pissing you off. Yes, I can see that. Bad witnesses. I just can't go through all of the horrible abuse that they talk about. This is not appropriate for YouTube. In 91, there was a new case waiting for him. That an allegation that this child had been abused through a preschool. Greatest fear that would turn into a long drawn out case. Didn't want that to happen, wanted to do it right. Wade set out to investigate. He visited Christina, her mother and therapist, that day and called in one of the TCSO's video interviewers, sit down with Christina for a forensic interview, 13-minute session that produced at best mixed results. Under Knox's urging, Christina at one point said that Danny had touched her with his genitalia, but several minutes later said that Danny had neither touched nor hurt her. Snap, Texas. Not a surprise. Yeah. Five days later, Wade got a call from them. Wade brought Christina back to office for a second interview, this time to discuss allegations regarding Fran, but Christina refused to talk with the interviewer, who was filling in for Knox. Christina left the interview room several times, pretended to be asleep, and tried to convince Vela to let her watch TV. Vela ended the interview, and Wade decided to reschedule the meeting after Knox returned from vacation, but Wade's straightforward investigation soon began to go sideways. VJ's father, Earl Stalin, called to say his son was acting strangely, crawling around on the floor when he already knew how to walk, for example. He said VJ was coming home exhausted just after a day. Observed that he'd come home like he'd been drugged with rings around his eyes. As the investigation moved into the fall, allegations against the Kellers began to accumulate. Sandra Nash called to say her 5-year-old son, Brandon, called to say that he would put a rope around the kids' necks and he would cut off somebody's head with a knife if they told any secrets. In October, more from David Campbell. Allegations against the couple kept coming, each more elaborate than the last. The children said the Kellers took the kids on plane rides, dug up bodies in cemeteries, made them drink Kool-Aid infused with blood, killed a baby, and tortured several animals. They had chopping knives, and they tied Brendan's arm down, told him to lay his arm out and close his eyes. Just gets worse and worse. What's up, Flair? Do you not check your DMs anymore? What's wrong with you, girl? Oh, it was just accusations. But it goes into graveyard rituals. And it just gets deeper and deeper. Satan's arm bone. It was a testimony of Brendan Nash. Brendan spoke to jurors through closed-circuit TV and was very vocal about all the things he said happened at Hate Care. Said he'd seen Fran and Danny abuse Christina, and the couple had taken the kids to a graveyard and dug up this body. Yet Brendan's testimony at trial departed strikingly from what he told TCSO interviewer during his first interview in 91. There, Brendan said he didn't know there were some things that Danny did that were wrong. He took out a chainsaw to cut down trees in the backyard. He loaded Brendan to ride on the lawnmower. He had 2 guns in the house, a pistol, a shotgun. He let Brendan ride the pickup truck to get hay for the horse. Danny could have been the one that did it, but he said he liked the daycare and no one ever touched him improperly. When Vela asked if he had any secrets about daycare, are you telling me what really happened over at Fran and Danny's house? And he said yes. Case is incredible. I've been off the map. I have something to tell you. Well, isn't that special? You gotta see The Devil You Know on Hulu. Devil You Know. Yeah, they actually made a movie about this one. It was pretty insane. Several Austin social workers, Vivian Lewis, began her career as teacher of this public school. Teresa Chambers, who had two children at day Keller's home, told the Chronicle she also found no signs that her children had been abused. Chambers interviewed Fran Keller before deciding to enroll her kids there. She was cautious because her older son had previously been physically abused in daycare and had sustained a serious head injury. She met with Fran and toured the house before deciding to leave her children there. Whenever all these allegations of abuse broke, Chambers said she was contacted by investigators who told her there was a video evidence of abuse. I wanted to know if my children are on those videotapes. I wanted to know what police had. She'd recalled the investigator whose name she could not remember said just assumed that all the children at that daycare were abused. This is verbatim. I remember it as if it were yesterday. She looked for signs, but never found any. They never found any photos or videotapes of any abuse. Doubtful diagnosis. Now you have to understand this all stemmed from this satanic panic that happened. It didn't stop people from going after these folks. It doesn't stop anybody from going after anyone for any reason, especially the government. They have no say in this. They just do what their constituents asks. But when it's all made up, when these issues are all made up to sell a book, to have an agenda, it becomes an issue. Contracted for the story, Dr. Michael, I'm going to say Meow, who examined Christina at Brackenridge Hospital on August 15th, says now he's not so sure that what he saw during his genital examination was in fact abuse. I'll be straight up honest with you. It could have been wrong about this. At the time, in good faith, I thought I saw something was abnormal about her hymen. However, in retrospect, knowing what I know, having seen more detailed photos of normal hymens, and knowing how to do exams with newer, more precise medical equipment, Meow said he isn't all that sure he would have come to the same conclusion. He says he remembers sitting in a presentation several years after the Keller case where he was learning about advancements in the understanding of what normal looks like and thinking back to this case. Meow said he remembered being shown pictures of normal variants on the appearance of female genitalia. I remember seeing a picture that kind of reminded me of that case. And I said, I hadn't seen it before, but it was described in that talk as being normal. Without physical evidence provided by Meow, the state's case against the Kellers would have been seriously weakened. Defense attorney Whitworth thought the fantastic allegations of the children, graveyard rituals, airplane flights to Mexico that could not have occurred, physically impossible actions would undercut their believability. But of course, it didn't work that way in court. Instead, it was withheld. Little girls were describing fantasy events that didn't happen. Here, the children have described real events, which is no witch hunt. But it was. Professor Wood was stunned that Noblet's testimony was allowed into evidence. Austin, has a reputation for being progressive and an intellectually enlightened city, so it's really shocking to learn that a DA there to put an expert on the stand to testify in the reality of witchcraft, satanic ritual abuse, and that a judge allowed it into evidence. I've never seen that on any other case I've been on. Imagine that. No other case. Withheld information defense was hamstrung at trial and incapable at times of countering such testimony, in part because of the restricted access to critical evidence, such as David Campbell's reports, the children's videos, the police reports, and Dr. Meow's medical report. For example, while the state had the luxury of giving to Noblet all of the documents related to the case before he testified. Think about that. Before he testified, he was given everything. Those documents until the trial meant its expert psychologist, George Parker, had few specifics to offer the jury about his assessment of the case. Moreover, the defense was not given any documents such as the therapy notes until it came time for them to cross-examine the state's witnesses, which often made their examinations of the witnesses seem choppy at best and inevitably complete. That sucks. And continuing on, it also appears that there's a good deal of information that Whitworth and co-counsel Lewis Jones simply did not have access to during trial or thereafter, information that could have cast further doubt on those particular stories because they never had a chance to read through them. So, for example, in August 1993, 9 months after the Kellers were convicted, Brendan Nash's parents, Sean and Sandra, filed civil lawsuits against a laundry list of defendants they claimed were responsible for their children being abused at the daycare, seeking a total of $12.5 million compensation, in addition to suing Fran and Danny, Raul Quintero, Janice White, Doug Perry, in hopes of getting a judgment against their homeowner's insurance policy. The Nash's suit cited the host of other defendants, including the Keller's landlord, others in the neighborhood, Hillside bar owner, Oak Hill Gymnastics Academy, a man named John Trigg. According to civil suit records, Brendan and likely Christina had told police these additional people had also abused them, and Nash's claimed rituals were held on Dietz's property that left physical evidence, such as places where fires had been, holes in the ground, animal bones, and dismembered children toys. Dietz knew, or should have known, that the Nash boys and Fern's sister were abused. They alleged further that the children were taken to Oak Hill Gymnastics Academy and to Hillside Bar, and of course were abused there. And finally, they were taken to another private residence where a man named John Trigg lived, where the children were filmed while being abused at this property. It just goes on and on. Among the saddest aspects of the case is that in the quest to prove their innocence, Fran and Danny Keller may have been their own worst enemies. When initially indicted, they fled Austin, traveling to Las Vegas to stay with Fran's daughter. The media had a field day, and prosecutors played up the flight as a trial at an indirect admission of guilt. Keller said they acted out of fear and were not in hiding. Neither had been in trouble with the law before, and they misunderstood the process, particularly the bonding process. Fran insists that when she asked their attorney, then Ravis Kanak, what they should do, he responded that if he were in their position, he'd leave town. Taking the remark literally, Fran and Danny left, although they were readily traceable through their relatives. Kanak did not return the phones. We've returned phone calls from the Chronicle. When they asked Kanak about the incidents, the lawyer said that he didn't recall making that remark. Why would he? Why would he recall ever making that remark? Because that right there would get him in all kinds of trouble. Why is my camera all off-center? That's so weird. Give me just a second. Get that turn right there. There we go. That's a little better. Cool. Even should the Kellers ever be proven to be innocent, and this is an old version of it, because since then they've been exonerated, should even even should the killers ever be proven innocent, such damage has already been done not only to the killers or to the other suspects fingered by the children, only to be cleared of any involvement, but also to the children themselves. When the killers were convicted and sentenced in 92, Sandra Nash told local TV news that she would tell her son, "He'd done a good job. We'll tell him that all his pain and suffering is coming forward has taken power away from Fran and Danny and given it back to the children." One of the other children involved in the case, VJ Stalin, now 21, declined to be interviewed except to briefly reiterate that Fran and Danny had abused him. During the interview at Gatesville, asked Fran Keller about VJ's assertion she broke down in tears all my life while my children were alive. It did not happen. It's pretty rough. But of course, this particular story right here, decades later, same fear emerged in QAnon. This is why you have to have some critical thinking. And just remember, cults don't want you having critical thinking at all. And I mean, you break this down. Does whatever group you're following allow critical thinking? I mean, to be Flair made a very interesting point of we're going through a new version of it. We think we are so progressive that we're at the point of awareness that gender is now on the table for disputing because no critical thinking. If you think critically about it, people get upset. They get angry. They will fight. They will argue. They will break down relationships over having some sort of critical thinking. Critical thinking tells you that men are men, women are women. There's no in between. None. You do have the rare occasions that someone might be born with two genitals or two sets of genitals, whatever. Born male, female, hermaphrodite. It's a rarity. And I think that the worst part of it is when we allow ourselves as humans to buy into the bullshit, to agree with the bullshit. When somebody says they want to be called by their preferred pronouns, that's where you start running into problems. It gets very confusing. And then people become annoying with it, where nobody really wants to listen. Oh, very cool. It's an intriguing thought. But the more that you allow people to get away with the bullshit, the more that you call Bruce Jenner Caitlyn because they changed their name. Okay, Caitlyn, Bruce, whatever. So you changed your name. You're still a man. Don't care if you chop it off. Don't care if you invert it. You're still a man. It doesn't matter. You're still a man. It's fine. But the more that we allow this shit to happen on a personal level, for me personally, the worse it gets. The more they'll push the envelope. At some point, you say, enough is enough. Stay away from these cults. Stay away from them. They're bad. They don't allow you to use critical thinking. It's one of the things that they try to take away from you. The first thing that cult wants to take away from any cult, they want to take away your critical thinking. Me personally, I've got a friend that decided he's better off without his junk. Still call him by his first name. If he gets upset, well, tough shit. I'm not playing the game. Not playing the game. Now, if someone happens to prefer that they call me sir or ma'am, that's how they want to be addressed. It's like somebody wanting to be addressed as doctor. I find it very annoying. Unless they're like a medical doctor. Just because you have a doctorate doesn't mean I need to call you doctor. I can call you whatever the hell I want. I'll call you by your first name. I'll call you by your last name. If you don't want to respond to it, then that's up to you. But there's where the conversation breaks down. I don't know about that. Righteous indignation. I don't know about that. I just think there comes a point where we need to say no. We're not playing the game. And my thoughts have changed over the past, I don't know, year. Just because I got sick of it. I'm sick of playing it. Grown men shouldn't be in little girls' room. Grown women shouldn't be in little boys' room. Too many weird things happen. It's not right. Have a little bit of moral. Take a little bit of moral. Be good. But back to this, the QAnon. Decades later, echoes of the same fear had emerged in QAnon. This seemingly novel conspiracy theory had grown in far-right political circles since November 2017. Adherents of QAnon believe that a shadowy cabal kidnaps children, tortures them, and uses their blood in satanic rituals. I never heard this. Things are devolving. Oh, I don't know about that. So I'm just wondering. I never heard that from the QAnon stuff. Maybe I just wasn't paying any attention or something, but that's not what I was hearing. I mean, we know that Epstein was doing some really freaky shit. We still don't have a list of those people. Let's imagine this. Someone is tried and convicted and in prison for supplying minors to really popular people. And not a single one of those popular people, one of those famous people, one of those well-known names has ever been made public. Isn't that a shitty way to get arrested? Spend your time in jail. Do I think what she did was right? Fuck no, I think she's a little weird. She's a little creepy. You know what I'm talking about. I'm not going to use that word. So I don't know. You could name 100. You can name 1,000 people, and I wouldn't be able to tell you the truth about that because I don't know. You could name 1,000,000 people, but I just never heard that there was that the QAnon conspiracy theory that are Democratic politicians. I really hate that they do this shit. Let me guess. This is like NPR or some shit. Oh, there, there you go. Learn the difference between Democrat politician and Democratic politician. Dumbasses. Horrible writing. Not preschool teachers as they've been in the 80s, but their accusations are eerily similar. No, this was just one particular set of preschool teachers, and it had nothing to do with that. It was the extremely left wing that was causing this extremely right wing to look like they were doing something a little weird. I mean, it exists, of course, but the idea of an elite cabal, that's the deal breaker for the elite cabal. Hey, Mike, how you doing? Hey, Cloud, good to see you. Good to see you. It's wonderful. Every moral panic has to have a folk devil, says the young author of the Daycare Ritual Abuse Moral Panic. It has to have a person or more likely a group of people, whether real individuals or fantasized individuals, who are the devils in the middle of all of this. One of the earliest bellwethers of the Satanic Panic came in 1980 with the publication of Michelle Remembers, a memoir co-written by Lawrence Panzer and Michelle Smith. The book graphically details abuse that Smith claimed to have suffered as a child at the hands of a satanic cult, abuse that she had allegedly forgotten but eventually recovered through her work, which was that memory recovery. Get nervous when I can't tell a girl from a guy because I always get he and she wrong and feel I'm the rude one once I figure it out. But yeah, that's a good point. It is. Don't be worried about what they think. My uncle, this was close to 3 decades ago, gave me some really good advice. I didn't always heed it, but he gave really good advice. And his advice to me was, don't live your life to justify somebody else's existence. You don't need to give approval to every single person. Live for yourself and enjoy the people that you're around, but you don't have to justify somebody else's existence. It's really good advice. And it seems to me that a lot of these particular persuasions of people need to have some sort of justification of their existence, when most of the world really doesn't care whether you're gay, straight, whether you feel like you were born in the wrong body. The rest of the world really does not care. They really don't. I mean, it's great to, look for some consoling whenever you're not feeling like you're in a good place. And that's what good friends are for. But a good friend doesn't let you, harm yourself. They won't do that. A good friend will pull you from the edge of a cliff. They don't feed you and tell you, yeah, just go ahead. It's not what good friends do. Like that, I'm writing it down. I guess. I mean, my uncle's pretty bright. My uncle is pretty bright. Well, he still is. I mean, not perfect by a long shot. Just wash your hands. Okay. I don't know what that's about, but if you say so. I want people to stop making me an asshole because they're part of my vocabulary. It reminds me of racism and the echoes. Don't make me responsible for someone else's assholery. There you go. The book was a bestseller, but of course, and Panzer became the leading academic voice of warnings about the dangers of ritual abuse. He also began to consult with prosecutors in criminal trials, including the case that would spread fears of satanic abuse even farther around the country, the McMartin preschool trial. A plate bearing a pentagram was also found at McMartin preschool. Parents said it could be part of a satanic ritual. It looks like someone just drew a star. That's all it looks like. I mean, I'm looking at this picture. It looks like someone drew a star. I used to draw stars all the time. I guess they could have called it a pentagram. I'm not in this world to live up to your expectations. Neither you are up to live to mine. Yeah, I don't owe you, owe no one, no obligation. No one owe me none. So everything is fine, fine. Mm-hmm. Yes. The great Peter Tosh. Great, great stuff. To be fair, I'm a punk rocker because I have buttons all over my jackets and stuff. I love them. Do you sell any of your own, or can I can look at somehow, or is it just for fun? Oh, that's pretty nice, Danielle. Oh, my uncle sounds like your kind of people. Oh, yeah. My uncle's pretty damn cool. Uncle's pretty damn cool. There's a visual goes with statement, but little sick people and put bathroom stalls indicate sex. I put female, male, handicapped, and alien on it. Legend. Okay. I would say my uncle's pretty much a legend. I thought it was the case of our time, says Danny Davis, attorney for defendant Ray Buckley, teacher at Virginia McMartin's preschool in Manhattan Beach, California, was accused of abusing one of his students in 1983. By the following spring, the accusations had grown to include hundreds of children, and rumors swirled that students had been abused in satanic rituals at cemeteries and in tunnels underneath the school. Whatever it was that happened was a social contagion, and it's that simple. Davis decided to study historical examples of witch hunts and allegations of satanic behavior in order to prepare his defense. I saw clearly there's a process on a timeline that starts with some sort of scandal or change in the society that develops a very forceful, agreed upon accusation against a target or a scapegoat, and the scapegoat is then quickly destroyed. We've seen this happen not too long ago. The McMartin preschool case was one of the longest and most expensive criminal cases ever tried in the United States. It ended when Buckley was acquitted of a dozen charges in 1990. Attempts to find tunnels under the preschool failed, and since the trial, several students who accused of Buckeye, I want to say, oh, it is Bucky, of abuse admitted their stories were fabricated. But the lack of physical evidence in cases like McMartin preschool trial didn't stop allegations of satanic ritual abuse from spreading during the 1980s. National broadcasts like 2020 ran long specials featuring children claiming to have been abused by Satanists. Academic conferences discussed recovered memory in satanic abuse, and psychologists like Pazder began to train law enforcement to recognize warning signs in their communities. Yeah, Peter Tosh is a legend. Absolutely. Pat is all together for you on Wednesday. Oh. That was actually pretty good little tutorial. I came by, checked it out. If you haven't checked out To Be Flair, good stuff. Good stuff. This was a snail mail approach to spreading a moral panic, of course. These are the same kind of tropes that crop up again and again. It's really interesting that she would have a name like Jenga. Just think about it. They see themselves as heroic. And how can you be heroic in today's world? Well, you protect the children against the cabal that is out to turn them into sex slaves. How can there be anything more important than that? It's unclear how much support QAnon will continue to receive with Trump out of the White House. Polling is mixed with a degree of favorability the conspiracy theory enjoyed among American electorate, but DeYoung believes that moral panics eventually fizzle as hard evidence of their claims fails to materialize. The best available weapon we have to is counter the information with facts, is to keep pressing for more information. Yes. Their content is much more entertaining. I guess. I mean, I'm just a dude on the internet talking shit. See? Sorry, I didn't know you had a YouTuber. I would have a while ago. See? Gotta get the word out there for people. They just get ridiculous, except for maybe a very small number of true believers who can tolerate an enormous amount of dissonance. Yeah. That's where it gets a little weird. Mike Gohagan. Everyone crying out for peace. Yeah, but none are crying out for justice. I don't want no peace. I need equal rights and justice. Damn. Oh. It's. There we go. The problem with all of this particular satanic panic was the amount of people that it destroyed. Untruths were told about people over years. Over a long period of time. And it gets spooky. Oh, that's weird. That was actually deleted. There was a page there for it. And that was just one of the cases. Just, it worked exactly like it was supposed to. Yes, it did. It always happens. It always happens at the best times. You have to remember, one of the most concerning parts about these crop up groups, these, I don't know, what would you call them, social cults, is you get a following that creates a panic that's not true, that creates an issue that if you look back on it, you see how full of holes that particular idea was. There was a time when people were talking about a certain vaccine and there was metal in it or some crap like that. People were sticking magnets to their skin to prove it, and it was completely debunked. Flair, all you can do is your best. Yeah. Steve Gosney's pretty awesome. But getting into the weeds of that is use critical thinking. If a group doesn't allow you to use any sort of critical thinking or not want to have a serious discussion, if their discussion turns into getting louder than you to make their point, because that always works. Just because that leader has to speak over you, that your ideas or your thoughts are invalid because of whatever beliefs you might have, whatever life experience you might have, becomes invalid. Steer away from them. Steer away from those folks that will not allow you to use critical thinking, that don't want to hear another side of the story. Be wary of them. You're funny. It's use your own mind. Use critical thinking. I'll talk over you. How does that go? How does that go? There's something that I read a long time ago. It says a philosopher. I can't remember it. It's a short like statement about a philosopher. A new class, much worse, and the day is still coming out, but it's pretty bleak. Yes. Use the power of trivium to see their logical fallacies and unveil their true intentions. I mean, what's been removed from most curriculum makes you wonder whose side the government is really on. Well, if you expect the government to have any sort of critical thinking, forget it. That's not what government is there to do. Mercury, aluminum, etc. This generation is ripe for cults. Well, they never went away. Cults have never gone away. They're still here. They will still continue to exist. There's still some still happening. There's nothing. The problem is a lot of people with this satanic panic got in their heads that having a deck of tarot cards, for example, was just pure evil. It was satanic. It was brought about by the devil. Ouija boards were, just so evil. Like your soul was going to be captured up and you were releasing the devil by using this magic little board. I mean, okay. Is it true? Some would say that it is. But does that mean that you go after these people? Do you create a panic over it? Or do you just, as we continue to allow our children's mind to be weak and allowing cults to thrive? They only evolve, but they still have some of the base. They still have some basic tenets. All cults have some very basic tenets that they will follow, and it's pretty interesting when you actually go and start looking into what defines a cult and how close a cult is to any sort of major religion, how tightly interwoven those can be. It's quite interesting. Let's see if I can pull this up here. Oh, there it is. I was able to pull this particular one up. No, I'm not going to do that. Copy. Let me see if I can pull this one up. Paste that in there and go there. It's a big site. Let's see. Why is it not coming up? URL. There we go. Come on. I hate when this happens. Here we go. Share this tab. I've been looking to try to get this one up. I've been working on it. The best way to gain loyal cult following is to promise them everything they need and not deliver immediately. They have to undergo a process. But the promise is usually enough for someone desperate to have those needs fulfilled. Spoken like a true person there. I love it. See, Shelley's hitting it right on the money. But let me share this particular one here. So Austin Parr was wrongly convicted in that satanic cult and to get $3.4 million after decades in prison. They were convicted in 92. Fran Keller, 67, that with that money, they won't have to live on the brink of destitution. They've been unable to find jobs due to their ages and those convictions. This means we don't have to worry about pinching pennies on Social Security and late bills. It means we will actually be free. The wrongful conviction compensation fund pays $80,000 for each year in prison. They plan to buy a house, a vehicle, health insurance, and better hearing aids for Dan Keller, who is 75. That's what she looked like when she went in. That's what he looked like when he went into prison. And that's what they look like now. Kellers were released in bond in 2013 when only physical evidence in the case was found to be mistaken. Court documents filed the year of the release. The emergency room doctor who testified that internal lacerations on one child were evidence of abuse said the lacerations were actually normal. After the release, Kellers, who divorced in prison, struggled to convince Travis County prosecutors that they should be fully exonerated. In 2015, the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals threw out the sexual assault convictions, but did not exonerate them. They actually later were exonerated, finally. That was an interesting conversation on Vice's stream the other morning. I started Googling it. There's still failure to come to a consensus, which shows, as you say, they're so interwoven. Yes, so we drill down why that desperation is created in those primed for victimhood. Why are people primed for that? Why do we allow them to get away with it? I mean, it's understandable if somebody is suffering that, or feeling some sort of pain, or having mental distress, or anything like that, that people want to reach out and help. It's not abnormal. That's a healthy human response to be concerned for somebody else's well-being. Hey, the White Rabbit. How's it going? Good to see you. I think you mentioned that the path is to least resistance. It's much easier than addressing the actual problem. Yes. Need to belong, be accepted, loved, needed. Basically all the needs not met in childhood, miss the fundamentals, and leave a void. It does happen. It does happen. Everybody wants to belong. Everybody wants to be part of something, generally speaking. To be part of a community, to be part of a group. And it's easy to lose yourself in that groupthink of seeing somebody as pure evil or pure good. And we've seen this recently with the cult of conservatism, where you've got people that are defending Steven Crowder and you've got people defending Candace Owens. It's not using any critical thinking. All these people are shits. Nobody's perfect. Do I think Steven Crowder's a shit? Absolutely. I'll tell you that 100 million times. I think he's a complete shit. The way that he was talking to his wife, man, I pull that shit on my wife. I guarantee you she'd be stepping off in a fucking heartbeat. She'd be like, screw you. To hell with that. Also, that being said, I don't know the context of that conversation because I've had arguments with my wife before, not on that kind of level where I'm basically berating her like that. Never had that kind of conversation. Well, we've gotten arguments. And if somebody were to record one of those arguments out of context, it could make my wife look like an absolute horrible person. And the same for me. Could have made me look like an absolute wretched person. That's why I'm reserving my judgment until I see what all the whole conversation was. What happened prior to that? What about the pieces that were edited out of that? There was some serious little edits taken out, and I just was not too impressed with it. But back to the original part of that is you'll see a group of people that want to rise up and defend Candace Owens, which she shouldn't even have her fucking nose in his business and talking shit like she has about him. But that's her thing. She's got to be part of the drama. Maybe it's her numbers really suck. I don't know. Yeah, Crowder's wife, that is. Yes. Which makes me wonder why she would stay. Maybe they were going seeking counseling. Maybe there were other issues that we don't know about. Man, relationships are complicated. Relationships are seriously complicated. And I mean, if people looked on the outside at my wife and I's relationship, they would go, "What in the hell does she ever even see in this guy?" Serious. I know, Wednesday on Veiled Reality, where I'll be pulling back the curtain of the third veil, where these answers are hidden behind the establishment narrative and conspiracy narratives. Oh, it should be a really good one, Winnie. Should be a really good one. Look forward to it. Really do. Depends on what time that's going on. 9 p.m. Yeah, I should be able to catch a little bit of that one. I'll have to check it out. If you guys haven't checked out Winning Reality, he actually has some very insightful stuff. I mean, come on. Of course, you got the White Rabbit. It's a good thing you're not doing that on Tuesday, because Tuesday is reserved for the expert. That's where I go over and check out his Taco Tuesday, because White Rabbit him will do a nice little trivia night. It's quite interesting, quite fun. I'm sure that White Rabbit is actually working up some really interesting questions. She always does. She's pretty on top of that. Of course, she has to, crack the whip and keep the expert in line. It's good stuff. It's good stuff. It's fun. So if you think your trivia chops are up to par, bring it to their channel, to the expert's channel. You'll see. Mike Gohagan, all those years alone broke something in me and made dying seem like a preferable option. Anything in pain and emptiness to find information to open my eyes. That's wonderful. That's sometimes what people need. Divine intervention. But that's not what I'm talking about. Whenever I talk about religion, cults, God, all of those wonderful parts of life, death, the beauty of human beings, there's people out there that take advantage of that vulnerability. That's what I'm talking about. And those people that take advantage of vulnerability are some evil shits. And they will promise you things. As somebody put in here earlier. Yeah, to be fair, there for the trivia. They will sucker you in on these particular parts of you that are very vulnerable. and they will use those against you in some of the worst ways. And it may seem like they're helping you out at the time, but because you're in a vulnerable state, you may not see the kind of damage that people are doing. That's all I'm saying. Is just be careful, be cautious. Yeah, see, I hear you, Shelley, and millions of others. Yes. And this is very well put. I'm happy to know you're doing better. Is there anything we can do to help besides not being aware on the nerves? I know that feeling. I know that when I went through some rep many years back, that it was just like, oh, come on, I just want people to leave me alone so I can like actually get on with life. And feeling sorry for me did not help. You know, bad stuff happens, and the more that I get coddled, it's easier to fall into that trap of being coddled constantly. So at some point, whenever she's ready, she'll say, okay, enough. It's that first step, the walking part. You know, if you've ever been physically damaged really bad where you can't walk, that first step out of a cast, oh, it's a son of a bitch. You hit the floor, like drop dead. And you know, the more often that you do it, the better that you get at it. The better you get at it. Yeah, when I had, it's been many decades, but snapped a leg in two. I had a lot of people that were rushing to help me out. And I quickly learned that those steps I had to take on my own. And it's a growing experience as you get older, that you'll find making those small steps on your own without any guides on you, nobody's holding you, you start to do much better. And it takes time. And effectively put us all in solitary confinement. Yes. They did that to everybody. They did that to everybody. I was locked up and locked down just like everybody else for many years. White Rabbit is such a wonderful soul. Such a wonderful soul. Such a sweetheart. If you've never seen her and the expert just poke fun at each other, it's fun. Especially whenever she gets the expert to scream like a little girl. I've seen you. I see what you do. You're pretty damn funny. Pretty funny. He eats it up. Who's the expert? I don't know. We don't know who the man is behind the sunglasses. I think he's an AI. That being said, it's 9:00. It's a Sunday night. I've got a long day tomorrow. I've got a new trainee that's coming in. I hope that I provided some useful information, some entertainment, at least for a couple hours, or about an hour and a half. Provide a little bit of entertainment, somebody to poke fun at for a little while, take your mind off of all the BS of this world, because there's plenty of it out there. Well, just remember, you find yourself in a position where somebody is controlling every part of your waking moments, every part of your day, and it's not reciprocated. It's not something that you want to do, that you find yourself in a bad position, that you find that the world is closing in on you. Look to see if it's a cult. If it is, get the hell away from those freaks, because they will bring you down. And if they're doing it to bring you up, and they're promoting you, they're boosting you, they're giving you enjoyment and pleasure, and they're not asking anything in return, then they're probably just really good friends. Probably really good friends. I've had some interactions with some really wonderful people in my life that have brought me up, gave me new insight into where I was lacking, where I could have easily fallen down a very bad path. But they were, I don't know, old enough, wise enough to keep me from screwing up my life worse than it already was. Just use critical thinking. And you'll find that critical thinking, using your mind, first of all, it's going to save you so much time and energy later on down the road. And just know that there's somebody out there that loves you. Somebody cares about you. You may not know it now. You may not see it. But there's somebody there. Somebody there that sees what's going on in your world and sees what's going on in your life. And they know that they can give you some relief. If even for a moment, that relief, it's sweet, and it's always appreciated. We love you guys on this side of the world, here in Atlanta, Georgia, where it's going to be another chilly day. Today was rainy as shit, but it's going to be another chilly day tomorrow. Hopefully it warms up, and hopefully I can get a couple more streams in this week. No guarantees on it. Like I said, I've got a busy schedule with training a new employee, but it'll be good. It'll be awesome. It'll also free me up a little bit on the backside. That being said, everybody have a wonderful night, and say goodnight to the turtles. Peace, y'all.
Exótica.